Hi guys, so I just got 62 to 68 slash chapter 5, the Whomping Willow. So now I'm going to do chapter 5 to chapter 6, maybe if I have enough time. So I'm going to start reading. So, chapter 5, the Whomping Willow. The end of the summer holidays came too quickly for Harry's liking. He was looking forward to getting back to Hogwarts, but his month at the Burrow had been the happiest of his life. It was difficult not to feel jealous of Ron when he thought of the Dursleys and the sort of welcome he could expect the next time that he turned up in Privet Drive. On their last evening, Mrs. Weasley conjured up a sumptuous dinner which included all of Harry's favourite things, ending with a mouth-watering treacle pudding. Fred and George rounded off the evening with a display of filibuster fireworks. They filled the kitchen with red and blue stars that bounced from the ceiling to wall for at least half an hour. Then it was time for a last mug of hot chocolate and bed. It took a long while to get started the next morning. They were up at cock crow, but somehow they still seemed to have a great deal to do. Mrs. Weasley dashed about in a bad mood, looking for spare socks and quills. People kept colliding on the stairs, half dressed with bits of toast in their hands. And Mr. Weasley nearly broke his neck tripping over a stray chicken as he crossed the yard, carrying Ginny's trunk to the car. Harry couldn't see how 8 people, 6 large trunks, 2 owls and a rat were going to fit into one small Ford Anglia. He had reckoned, of course, without the special features which Mr. Weasley had added. Not a word to Molly. He whispered to Harry as he opened the boot and showed him how it had magically been expanded so that the trunks fitted easily. When at last they were all in the car, Mrs. Weasley glanced into the back seat where Harry, Ron, Fred and George and Percy were all sitting comfortably side by side, and said, "Muggles do know more than we give them credit for, don't they?" She and Ginny were in the front seat, which had been stretched so that it resembled a park bench. I mean, you'd never know it was this roomy from the outside, would you? Mr. Weasley started up the engine and they trundled out of the yard, Harry turning back for a last look at the house. He barely had time to wonder when he'd see it again. When they were back, George had forgotten his box of filibuster fireworks 5 minutes after they'd skidded to a halt in the yard so that Fred could run in for his broomstick. They had almost reached the motorway when Ginny shrieked that she left her diary. By the time she had clambered back into the car, they were running very late. The temperatures were running high. Mr. Weasley glanced at his watch and then his wife. "Molly dear," "No, Arthur, no one would see. This little button here is an invisibility booster I installed that'd get us up in the air. Then we fly above the clouds and then we'd be there in 10 minutes, and no one would be any the wiser." I said, "No, Arthur, not in broad daylight." They reached King's Cross at 11:15. Mr. Weasley dashed across the road to get trolleys for their trunks, and they all hurried to the station. Harry had caught the Hogwarts Express the previous year. The tricky bit was getting onto the platform 9 3/4, which wasn't visible to the Muggle eye. What you had to do was walk through the solid barrier dividing platforms 9 and 10. It didn't hurt, but it had to be done carefully so that none of the muggles noticed you vanishing. Percy first, said Mrs. Weasley, looking nervously at the cloak overhead, which showed they had only 5 minutes to disappear casually through the barrier. Percy strode briskly forward and vanished. Mr. Weasley went next. Fred and George followed. I'll take Ginny and you two come right after us, Mrs. Weasley told Harry. And Ron grabbing Ginny's hand and setting off. In a blink of an eye, they were gone. Let's go together, we've only got a minute, Ron said to Harry. Harry made sure that Hedwig's cage was safely wedged on the top of his trunk, and wheeled his trolley about to face the barrier. He felt perfectly confident, but this wasn't as uncomfortable as using flew powder. Both of them bent low over the handles of their trolleys and walked purposefully towards the barrier, gathering speed a few feet away from it. They broke into a run and crashed. Both trolleys hit the barrier and bounced backwards. Ron's trunk fell off with a loud thump. Harry's was knocked off his feet, and Hedwig's cage bounced onto the shiny floor, and she rolled away, shrieking indignantly. People all around them stared, and a guardian nearby yelled, "What in blazes do you think you're doing?" Lost control of the trolley, Harry gasped, clutching his ribs as he got up. Ron ran to pick up Hedwig, who was causing such a scene that there was a lot of muttering about cruelty to animals from the surrounding crowd. "Why can't we get through?" Harry hissed to Ron. "I don't know." Ron looked wildly around. A dozen curious people were still watching them. "We're going to miss the train," Ron whispered. "I don't understand why the gateway sealed itself." Harry looked up at the giant clock with a sickening feeling in the pit of his stomach. 10 seconds, 9 seconds. He would his trolley forward cautiously until it was right against the barrier and pushed with all his might. The metal made him solid. 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. "It's gone," said Ron, sounding stunned. "The train's left. What if Mum and Dad can't get back through to us?" "Have you got any muggle money?" Harry gave a hollow laugh. "The Dursley hadn't given me pocket money for about 6 years. Ron pressed his ear to the cold barrier. "I can't hear a thing," he said tensely. "What are we going to do?" "I don't know how long it will take Mum and Dad to get back to us." They looked around. People were still watching them, mainly because of Hedwig's continued screeches. "I think we'd better go and wait by the car," said Harry. "We're attracting too much attention." "Harry," said Ron, his eyes gleaming. "The car. What about it? We can fly it to Hogwarts, but I thought we're stuck in it, right? And we've got to get to school, haven't we? And underage residents aren't allowed to use magic if it's a real emergency, Section 19, or something of the restricted or thingy." Harry's feeling of panic turned suddenly to excitement. "Can we fly it?" "No problem," said Ron, reeling the trolley around to face the exit. "Come on, let's go. If we hurry, we'll be able to follow the Hogwarts Express." And they marched off through the crowd of curious muggles and then found the station out of the station and into the side and back into the side road where the old Ford Anglia was parked. Ron unlocked the cavernous boot with a series of taps from his wand. They heaved their trunks back in, put Hedwig on the back seat, and got into the front. "Check no one's watching," said Ron, starting the ignition with another tap of his wand. Harry stuck his head out of the window. Traffic was rumbling along the main road, but the street was empty. "Okay," he said, and pressed a tiny silver button on the dashboard. The car around them vanished. And so did they. Harry could feel the seat vibrating beneath him. Hear the engine. Feel his hands on his knees and his glasses on his nose. But for all he could see, had become a pair of eyeballs floating a few feet above the ground in a dingy street full of parked cars. "Let's go," said one's voice from his right. The ground and the dirty buildings on either side fell, dropping out of sight as the car rose in seconds. The whole of London lay smoky and glittering below them. Then there was a popping noise, and the car, Harry and Ron reappeared. "Uh-oh," said Ron, jabbing the invisibility booster. "It's faulty." Both of them pummeled it. The car vanished, then it flickered back again. "Hold on," Ron yelled, and he slammed his foot on the accelerator. They shot straight into the low, woolly clouds, and everything turned dull and foggy. "Now what?" Harry blinked at said Harry, blinking at the solid mass of cloud pressing in on them from all sides. We need to see the train to know what direction to go in," said Ron. "Dig that down quickly." They dropped beneath the clouds and twisted. Around in their seats, squinting at the ground. "I can see it," Harry yelled. Right ahead, the Hogwarts Express was streaking along below them like a scarlet snake. "Due north," said Ron, checking the compass on the dashboard. "Okay, we'll just have to check on it every half an hour or so. Hold on." And they shot up through the clouds. A minute later, they burst out into the blaze of sunlight. It was a different world. The wheels of the car skimmed the sea of fluffy clouds, the sky a bright, endless blue under the blinding white sun. "All we've got to worry about now is the aeroplane," said Ron. They looked at each other and started to laugh for a long time. They couldn't stop. It was as though they had been plunged into a fabulous dream. This fort Harry was sure was the only way to travel past swirls and turrets of snowy clouds in a car full of hot, bright sunlight with a fat pack of toffees in the glove compartment, and the prospect of seeing friend George's jealous faces when they landed smoothly and spectacularly on the sweeping lawn of Hogwarts at the front of Hogwarts Castle. Well, it's like taking too long to go to the chapter, and it's still another lot of pages because I'm only on page 74. So we're going to end it here. So, bye guys.